I met a man and he told me a woman could not teach a man. I went through and translated those verses. And what if they don't mean what we think they mean? So Apostle Paul is talking to Pastor Timothy, a young minister, and he's telling him how to govern the church. But in that governing the church, that means the people and how they govern themselves. So that doesn't necessarily mean that everything is happening in the church. It says, let a woman learn in silence with all submission. And I do not permit a woman to teach or to have authority over a man, but to be silent. For Adam was formed first, then Eve. And Adam was not deceived, but the woman being deceived fell into transgression. Now, really, to get to the heart of that message, he talked about like the first sin in Genesis. So I'm going to go back to that. In Genesis chapter 3:17, when I translate that verse out, it says, then to Adam he said, because you have heeded obedient action, the voice, the command of your wife, and have eaten from the tree of which I commanded to lay order, to lay charge, you saying, you shall not eat of it. Now, he didn't call Eve, he said your wife. And so what if we are looking at the relationship that the man has with his wife? And that is when a man is in the presence of a woman that he thinks of as his wife, her problems, her needs, her wants puts him to work. If we look at that under that guise, because that's what Apostle Paul said when he was mentioning why the woman should not have charge over the man. If you translate that verse out, it says, let it be a woman learn deeper, more active understanding with practice and experience. In silence means inner peace, tranquility, with all submission, self-control. We translate verse 12 and it says, and I do not permit, and it says, give over responsibility for making a decision for someone else, a woman to teach, instruct, impart knowledge, or to have control, domineer a man, but to be silent, to have inner peace and tranquility. That for Adam was formed, which means molded, shaped, fabricated first, foremost, then Eve. And he said, Adam was not deceived, and that means thoroughly deceived, completely deceived. But the woman was completely deceived and has come into violation of a command. So when I take in context the first fall that happened in Genesis, what we learn is when a man is in the presence of a woman that he thinks of as his wife, she has the ability to make him even disobey God. And so then Apostle Paul is giving us the following instructions. He said, women, you need to make sure you have inner well-being. He says, men, do not let your wife tell you what to do. Because that last verse says, Eve was thoroughly convinced that she should eat the fruit, but Adam was not convinced, and he ate the fruit because Eve gave it to him. And so what I got from all of that is how important it is for a man to choose the wife that God has for him. Because the wrong woman will have him even disobey God.